I'm doing another one of my simulcasts on Periscope through Twitter and on YouTube. So, welcome. I've got at least one person. I've got a couple of people. Okay. Well, this is going to be more interactive. I'm not going to be reading the Trump tweets on this one. I'm not also going to be uh, doing the QAnon or anything like that. I might do one later on my computer and then you just hear my voice and I'll just kind of go through it. I think that's an easier way to do it. But there's something that's been on my mind that I really want to address with you. Here's the deal. This is like one of the most critical primary seasons ever. A few years ago in Oregon, one of my congressmen got kicked out for horrible sexual assault and David Wu. Anyway, so I decided I was going to back the guy who had just lost to him in the election because this happened pretty soon after the most recent congressional election in 2010. And so I was going to, and then I talked with him, and I said I can help you with the with the voter fraud. And he looked at me like I was crazy and said, "Well, there's no voter fraud. I'm going to just win outright." And I said, "Oh, really? You are? Okay. Well, then fine. I guess I'll run." And I'd been doing a quasi popular live talk show on relationships, the topic that a lot of people do enjoy. Every time people would recognize me on the street in Beaverton, Oregon, they'd say, "Oh, I really love your show." And I said, "Well, the political show or the relationship show?" "Oh, the relationship show." And it was a lot of fun. I represented the female's perspective, and I get a different single man to represent the man's perspective. And then we'd have local people call in on the phone, and we'd talk about all sorts of issues that were confronting men and women. And if it was a man, I would talk to give advice. And if it was a woman, then my partner, my co-host, my guest co-host. I can never keep a man. So, story of my life and being funny. Um, so anyway, I did that. So I had a little bit more name recognition than your average out of the blue congressional candidate. So I ran, and they actually only did one primary poll, and I came in second behind the guy who'd spent tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars running the previous time and was running this time. So let's see. So anyway, I know a lot about it. I've run 10 political campaigns. I've always felt like an outsider, felt like there was this cabal of people, insiders in the Republican Party, now we know them as the deep state, that were preventing any of my candidates or myself from winning. I came in almost tied for second in that race in the 2011 special election. Ran against this gal who I think that she told me that she was asked to run. And when I waited till the very last minute to file my name, that I was running in the primary so that I could beat the deadline, they wouldn't be able to put anybody else in front of me. But they wanted to fix it for, what was her name? Oh gosh. Suzanne Bonamici is the one who ended up winning in the special election. It was all for the primary for the Democrats to see which Democrat was the best Democrat, strongest Democrat to run to be the new congressman, because that was a foregone conclusion because they rigged the elections in Oregon. If you want to see any of that, I have studied that since 2000, and they are rigging the elections through all vote by mail fraud. Dogs, cats, long dead relatives, underage children, cartoon characters, and illegal aliens all determine the outcome of every election in the state of Oregon, and will continue to do so until they get smart and get their elections back so people can actually go in person on election day with paper ballot, counted at each of the polling places with photo ID, and they purge the registration lists of all the dogs, cats, long dead relatives, underage children, cartoon characters, and illegal aliens. So what I'm here to talk to you about and why this is so important, and I'm seeing their tricks that they're doing, and I especially saw it here in the neighboring state of Missouri. There is a senator named Claire McCaskill that is running for reelection. And she is a horrifically bad senator, especially for a pretty conservative state like Missouri. And so it's ripe for the pickings. But Mitch McConnell, I've just recently, the Holy Spirit, I'm sure, is the one who gave it to me, but I recently had a bit of an epiphany and realized this might be common knowledge to a lot of the insiders in Washington, D.C. Here's the deal. Mitch McConnell doesn't really want a big majority in the Senate. He wants it to be so close that only he can decide whether or not something comes up for a vote, an appointee, a new judge, or whatever. So he can put his thumb down. Here, let me do this. His thumb down on our great president and pressure him to do his bidding, to do Mitch McConnell's bidding, instead of Donald Trump working directly and put America first, which he will continue to do. But he has to, in order to put America first and get his judges and get his things through the U.S. Senate, he has to kowtow to Mitch McConnell. If it's less than 60 Republicans in the Senate. So he does not really want to have more than 60 or more than 51, more than 59 for sure, more than 59. But that's kind of cutting it close, because if he gets a Democrat or anything like that, then that would come over and vote with the Republicans, he might not have as much control. Do you see how that works? So right now he's got this stupid rule in place that he's not getting rid of, so that they're stalling everything in the Senate because we don't have enough Republicans in the U.S. Senate. So a wonderful guy in Missouri by the name of Tony Minetti, you can see on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please like or dislike, and please comment on my videos. I have been shadow banned since for far longer than any of these other late to the censoring party people. I've been shadow banned since November of 2008. What happened in November of 2008? You'll see why. Go look at some of my other videos. Anyway, please do that. Okay, where was I? Back to here. So I did just an interview with Tony Minetti. He is a retired lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. He flew those really cool stealth bombers, and he's a great guy. He's been endorsed by Gorka, what's his name? Sebastian Gorka, and by Sarah Palin, and a lot of other conservatives. And so he was scaring the heck out of Mitch McConnell, because he's also talking about getting rid of Mitch McConnell as majority leader. Yeah, we love that. Okay, so Mitch McConnell goes out and recruits his puppet pick, Josh Hawley, who was just elected to Attorney General less than a year after he won the Attorney General position in the state of Missouri, running on a campaign strategy of I'm not a politician, I'm not climbing ladders to get to another position, which he of course obviously is, because he immediately flipped on, said, "Oh, Attorney General, that's great, made it that far, let's go for U.S. Senate." And he's being backed by Mitch McConnell. And so, as you may have recognized, in the first year, Mitch McConnell was slow walking and showing Donald Trump who's boss, and not putting through his vote, getting the Senate, putting people up for Senate vote. I mean, it took forever for Ben Carson, who had been fully vetted during the campaign. It took him forever to finally put Ben Carson up for HUD secretary. So I'm sure he went to Donald Trump and said, "Hey, look, I want you to back my pick, Josh Hawley. And oh, by the way, his next closest competitor is a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Tony Minetti. So I want you to go to a VFW event, Veterans of Foreign War," which, of course, being a veteran, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Minetti went to their and when he found out the president was coming to the VFW event here in Kansas City, Missouri, he was all excited, and he called them up and the leaders of it, the organizers, and said, I'd really like to come, and I'd love it if I could meet the president. And he said, oh no, we really don't want to politicize it. How do you not politicize an event when the president's coming? Hello, what is it? I mean, so anyway, so they told him not to come to the VFW event where Donald Trump spoke here in Kansas City, Missouri. Told him not to come because they didn't want him to politicize it. Um, so he didn't come to the event because he's a man of his word, and he gave him his word he wasn't going to come, so he didn't come. Then he's watching the event, and who politicizes it? But his main opponent, Josh Hawley, Mitch McConnell's puppet boy. I mean, it's there's no mystery as to why. Out of all the kind of events, Donald Trump could have just had a regular rally, but no, he had a Veterans of Foreign Wars rally, and he endorsed a lawyer, a lawyer who had just lied to the voters and said that he was not a ladder climbing politician to get elected attorney general less than a year ago, less than a year before he started running for U.S. Senate at the behest, I'm sure, of Mitch McConnell. All this was organized by Mitch McConnell. So yes, Donald Trump had him up on stage, and yes, he had to say, "Oh yeah, we could use you in D.C." But I guarantee you, if the smart people of Missouri vote for the Patriot guy with his own has had his own security clearance for years, I'm sure, has been fully vetted by the military. If you vote for the Lieutenant Colonel Tony Minetti, then you can be assured you're going to get somebody who's not going to get taken out in the general election. How do we know that Mitch McConnell doesn't have some dirt on Josh Hawley? And that's why he wanted Josh Hawley over, well, obviously because Tony Minetti's what we're talking about getting rid of him, the arrogant guy. But anyway, Mitch McConnell's so arrogant. So anyway, how do we know he doesn't have something on Josh Hawley so Josh Hawley can get taken out in the general election, and then Claire McCaskill can scoot right back on in? Because remember, you got to look at the whole picture. Mitch McConnell does not want 60 Republicans or more in the U.S. Senate. He does not. If that happens, he loses his stranglehold over our President Donald J. Trump. Okay? Because he gets to determine what's voted on and what's not. And if there's a majority over 60 votes, especially if we get a lot of new people that are not Mitch puppets, then he could lose his position as majority leader. And this he takes, that old saying, power corrupts absolutely, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It is so true. So people are saying, hello, hi. If you're saying snarky stuff, I'm not going to stop and have a conversation with you. But thank you so much for joining it. Usually what happens is I get maybe one. Right now it looks like I've got 0 people watching me on YouTube, and I don't know how many people. Just a few people watching me on Periscope, and I appreciate you guys watching. And if you're afflicted with TDS, I will say a prayer for you. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask you to grant discernment for all those poor souls that are suffering with TDS and have hatred and dislike and discontent in their lives. Lord, help them to understand that there is joy and happiness, and the truth shall indeed set them free. This I pray in our precious Son, Jesus' name. So, those of you that are afflicted with TDS, I'm very sorry if you don't know what TDS means, because you do have TDS. Most people who have TDS don't know what it is. So you should look it up, and then you can get back to me and engage in a conversation. So bottom line, you have to do your research, and you've got to vote in this primary. Don't wait till November. Because here's the problem. The reason we have primaries and open primaries are just a joke. The reason you have a primary is so that the people who all kind of believe in the platform of that party can get together in advance of the real election and pick the very best person who represents their values so that that person can run against the person that the other party picked to represent their values. So if you have an open primary and everybody can vote for everybody, then you got the people who don't agree at all with your principles and with what's on the platform can nominate a really bad person in your primary, and then you got two bad people to vote between in the general election. So that is looks like somebody said okay. Anyway. So you've got to make sure, do your homework. Here's how you can tell somebody with integrity. Go to their website. First of all, they have to have a website. If they don't have a website in the primary, just forget about them. They have to have a website, at least a Facebook page. They may not have a regular website, but they got to at least have a Facebook page. You can go to this site called Ballottopia if you want to find out more, and go to your election and go to your state and pick them out. I also have but it's not very populated yet. But for the August 4th, no, August 7th primary, which is going to be in Kansas, Missouri, Michigan, and Washington State. You can go there and find my endorsements, the conservative crew endorsed candidates. But Ballottopia, ballot and then Topia, or I think it's Ballottopia, something like that. When you do the search, it'll be one. It'll give you all the list of your candidates. So go through each one of the candidates, especially if you've got a U.S. Senate race in your state. Not every state has a U.S. Senator. There's no U.S. Senator running for re-election this year in the state of Kansas. But of course, as we've discussed, Claire McCaskill, and you want to vote for Lieutenant Colonel Tony Minetti if you are a Republican. If you're a Democrat suffering from TDS, there's no need for you to vote in the primaries or in the general election in November. You can just take a powder, because the juggernaut of Trump is just mowing over everybody, and there's never been a more successful president this early in his term in office as President Donald J. Trump. I mean, kind of the records in the high stock market. We've got record low unemployment. We've got, the economy is just going crazy. Everything's going great. You wouldn't know it if you listened to the lamestream media, which sadly, a lot of the reason that people do suffer from TDS is because of the mainstream media. So find out information, find their website, and then go to their issues. Look at their issues, and very important, look at their background, where they've worked, what they've done. If they've worked for the government, that's a big fat red flag. If they are a lawyer, look a little bit further. There are some decent lawyers. One of my favorite candidates that I worked with on 2 of his campaigns was James Buell in Oregon, and I recruited him because I wanted to find somebody to run for attorney general when I was running for Congress in 2012 in the primary, and they hadn't gotten anybody to run and sign up in the primary, so he won the write-in. I got him to sold him to the Republican Party chair of the state of Oregon, who waited till the very last minute because he knew how dangerous it would be to have somebody as brilliant as James Buell in elected office. And so he waited till the night before all the ballots were mailed to everybody's houses to send out word to all the county Republican chairs to tell them that you should write in the name of this guy, James Buell. And so then we got to look at all the ballots, which was really cool. We got to look at all the ballots because they had to count the ballots to see if any one of the write-in candidates got enough to be considered the nominee for the Republican Party. And sure enough, he won it. So anyway, back to how to pick them. It's not the first. Okay. You guys just chat amongst yourself. The little peanut gallery we got going on in here on the Periscope. I really appreciate you joining. Thank you very much. And if you want to stay more than 30 seconds, that's always cool too. So look at where they were raised, how, what their background is. If they look like they've worked for the government, really bad red flag, bad red flag. That means somebody from the government probably recruited them to run for office. If they've worked in the military, I think that's a really good sign, really good sign. Just like Lieutenant, I helped last election. I helped in the congressional challenger against Yoder. I wish he was running again. Lieutenant Colonel Greg Good. And this guy, Lieutenant Colonel, the pilot, the B2 pilot, he's a stealth pilot. He's fabulous. Oh, he's a firebrand. He's just great. I mean, you just do look up his YouTube videos on YouTube. Also, look at all these candidates. If you really can't decide between which is the most conservative candidate running in your Senate race, I'm really mostly concerned about the Senate, and I am concerned about the House, but both of them. Go look on YouTube and put in their name on YouTube and see if you can find anything out. And, take the measure of the person and trust your gut. Trust your gut. If you want to, you can pray about it. But definitely vote in your primary. I want to tell you, and I want to congratulate everyone in the hinterlands, everyone in the rural areas around the country. You are the reason we have the great Make America Great Again, Donald Trump as our president. Because I can guarantee you, I've been studying this since 2000, as I said, the election fraud system they had it rigged 5 ways from Sundays. That's why when you look at those red and blue maps, it's only blue around the large cities. They play the numbers. They only rig, and it's easier for them to rig the fewer counties that they have to rig, the less likely they are to get caught. So they rig all the counties around the large cities, like around Kansas City, around San Francisco, Portland, New York. They do all that. But they never, ever in a million years thought that the farmers and the Amish and everyone in the smaller towns and rural areas would get off their farms and they would drive into town and they would cast their vote for Donald J. Trump. That, my friend, was the Achilles heel. That is why they lost. And the help of the forced out, honest, retired military generals, I believe. Also, they knew how the system was working and they stopped it. But we need your help again. Those of you who maybe never voted before, maybe just thought it was too much trouble, your one little vote doesn't count, and didn't go in and vote normally, but did this last time, we need you again on your primary. Find out when your primary is and vote for the most conservative candidate. Because if Mitch McConnell gets a barely majority of 51 Republicans and 49 Democrats, he can keep telling Donald Trump how high to jump in order to get what he needs done through the U.S. Senate. So we need to empower Donald Trump's his elected candidate, his Make America Great Again and then Keep America Great agenda by giving him help, giving him patriots in the U.S. Senate. Welcome. It's their first day. We're having all these little interesting chats about how to run Periscope. Okay, so that I think is it. What else? There's a whole bunch of stuff that's been just on my head that sort of wanted to talk to you about. Oh, people are talking to me. Hello, how are you? I'm fine. This is Hava, whatever. Still nobody watching me on YouTube. So sad. YouTube, I should share with you again, if this is the first time you've ever watched, this is Live with Lisa. Accountability was my political show, and I did one in Oregon. And then Love Chat was my one. It was a G-rated relationship show. It would have been made a great reality TV show. My high school boys and their friends I would bribe them with a sushi dinner. The sushi boat was our sponsor, and they would come and run camera and answer the phones, and then I would recruit, as I said, a new single man to represent the man's perspective, and then we just had a blast for about an hour. We were opposite of In the early days, we were opposite of American Idol. So people would flip over the channel, when it came to commercial break, and they'd stop and watch and they'd call in. It was just, it was so much fun. I learned a lot about relationships. Clearly not enough. I'm still single, but, but it was a lot of fun. And I am very, very concerned about the androgenization of our communities under this PC environment where women are afraid to act feminine and be women, and men are afraid to be masculine, and they just mix them all together, and it's not good. What it does do, it does go towards evil ends, which is the goal, I think, from these people that are trying to push these agendas on our kids and in our society, is that they want to limit the amount of people that are born in the world. um, and so, by encouraging people to repel, for the other, encouraging women to make themselves repugnant to men, and men to make themselves so wimpy women don't find them attractive, uh, makes women and men not be getting together very often in a happy and joyful way. Uh, that's not the way God intended it. The institution ever formed by God was, a man should leave his mother and father, and cleave to his wife, and the same goes for the woman. And that is God's most sacred institution. And so, of course, his enemy would like to take that down. And this is a spiritual battle. And if you look around and see why people just don't seem to be as happy as they used to be, and that things seem to be confusing, look a little bit deeper. Oh, you can't put God into politics. Oh, I dare say. Everything's about God. Here's the deal. If you don't know God yet, and you don't know Jesus, then I really recommend you take a look at his, I guess I don't have one right here. Um, Take a look at the best-selling book of all time. It's called the Holy Bible. And you can see this amazingly brilliant plan. I mean, it's the only book in the world that I know of that entire universities are set up just so you can study that one book. What I firmly believe, as much as anything, it's just a fact to me, is that we when you were first conceived in your mother's womb, that you got this incredibly brilliant, wonderful soul, unique amongst all souls ever created, before or after. And God has a special love for each one of you. And it's like you got put into this, let's pretend your body's like a car, but instead of just a regular car already being set the way it is, the car gets bigger and gets more accessories and gets more bells and whistles added to it, and it gets running really well, and it gets, grows to a full size car, and you get to drive around in it. But about the age of 30, 35, all of a sudden it starts to wear out, and you have to take better care of it because it's starting to wear out. And then at some point you can't live in the car anymore, so you have to get out of the car. Then you go to the other dimension, which is heaven. Or if you decide you'd rather not investigate the truth of creation and Jesus, then you go to the most horrible place imaginable and be tormented and tortured for eternity. Because you do have an eternal soul. It's going to go someplace. You might as well see if you can go to the good place. And it has the wonderful side effect that if you do choose Jesus over the enemy, then you will be happy while you're here on earth, as well as super happy when you're up there living in your mansion, because Jesus said he's going to prepare a place for you. If it was not true, I would not tell you. And lest you think lest you think you don't want to investigate Jesus because you knew somebody who said they were a Christian and they were the meanest person, most judgmental person you'd ever met in your life. Uh, I got news for you. They were working for the other team. They're kind of a double agent for the third for the enemy, for Satan, because they turn more people away from a relationship with Jesus than anything. And we are all fall short of the glory of God, and we all are sinners, and we all have to ask for forgiveness constantly. And we all need to recognize that Jesus died on the cross because of the fact that we're all sinful, so that we could find eternal life in heaven. Now, think about it. It makes a lot of sense if you think about it. What kind of heaven would it be like if God allowed it to be contaminated, infected with people who hate on each other, or holding grudges against other people, or conniving or gossiping with other people? It would not be much of a heaven. It really wouldn't. So that's why he's got some rules that you're supposed to try to abide by. Nobody can abide by all of them. We're all going to mess up, but when it's all clean and it's all your sins are forgotten. Now, go and look at near death videos, near death NDE videos. People who've had near death experience, been resuscitated, brought back, and then put in the word Jesus, and you'll see a pattern. People that this is my after studying this. I mean, I met a man who was Dean Braxton, who was dead for an hour and 45 minutes, and he went to heaven and came back. He said he was immediately in heaven, and he was immediately forgiven, and it was as though all of heaven was created just for him. Everybody was celebrating. There was music. Everything's alive. Smells great. He was crying. He was begging Jesus not to send him back to earth because it's so awful down here compared to how wonderful it is up there. But Jesus said, "I need you up there, down there, more than I need you up here." Another thing he said was he's coming soon, and that he needs everybody. He wants everybody in heaven. Everybody, even you, even if you don't believe in him, even if you want to call yourself an agnostic, an atheist, whatever religion, he wants everybody. Okay. But Dean said, well, you don't want pedophiles or child abusers. And Jesus got kind of pissy with him and said, how dare you tell me who I want in heaven? I want everyone. You don't understand. I didn't make hell for people. I made it for the demons. And you don't understand. When you do something wrong down there on earth, you get punished, but you get out. You get punished and then you serve your time, so you get out. Or you get punished and you die in prison, but you get out. If you go to hell, you never, ever, ever get out. And the people that have visited hell and gotten to come back and tell you about it, they say there is no time. You just know you're constantly going to be in utter agony and pain, and you feel every bit of it every day. And then they'll taunt you with somebody you think is going to come and rescue you, and then they morph into a demon. So I really wouldn't risk that if I were you. I would investigate that wonderful book called the Bible, the Holy Bible. And because this is a spiritual battle, this deep state, back to the politics. The deep state, they have they've made the wrong choice for temporary, short-term gain here on earth. All you have to know is that you cannot take a dime of this with you. Nobody's going to be real impressed when you're in hell and you were the president or CEO of some big company, or you were Mr. Muckty Muck, whatever. Nobody's going to be impressed. You're not going to be impressed. As a matter of fact, they say that the people that were the most proud and most successful down here are going to be in the worst place up there. Yes, it would be a more peaceful place if everybody had a personal relationship with Jesus. Now, don't get caught up in religion. I believe firmly that God does not like religion. He doesn't like any one of the denominations, because all the denominations, Presbyterian, Methodist, Catholic, Pentecostal, all of them are constructs of mankind in order to put a barrier between you and a personal relationship with God. Nobody can tell you how to have a relationship with your mother or your father. Nobody can tell you how to have a relationship with your spouse or your child. It's a function of your personal individual personality and their individual personality. And no other relationship in the history of the world will ever be like your relationship, for instance, with your mother. Because nobody is exactly like your mother and nobody's exactly like you. So now back to the importance of understanding how an individual relationship with Jesus is what is the goal. I because I met Dean Braxton. I get into these conversations with people about near death experiences, um, and so I met this woman here, and she told me the story herself. So this is nothing on YouTube. This is not something that I read or anything like that. This is from the granddaughter of a Baptist minister. And she said her grandfather, the Baptist minister, and his wife were in a terrible car accident, and the wife died. Her grandmother died, and her grandfather, the Baptist minister, pastor, he was in a coma. And then when he came out of the coma, he told this a most amazing story. He said that he was on his way to heaven with his wife and quite happy to do so. And Jesus is like, showed him the hand. I don't know if he said showed him the hand. But anyway, he said, oh, no, you're not going yet. I need you down there a little longer. I need you down. Go back and go into your church, and I need you to preach against denominations. It is killing my individual personal relationship with my people. So I need you to preach against denominations. I need you to just do it for 3 years. And then after 3 years, I'll take you back and you can spend eternity with your wife. So great. So true to form, he got his marching orders. He started where she said he used to be really uptight before he had the coma. The granddaughter said this about her grandfather. And he used to always wear, coat and tie, white shirt, and, and just very by the book. And then he started wearing wild colors to preach, and just really, really went hard at preaching against how important it is to have a one-on-one individual, mano-a-mano relationship with Jesus Christ, and not to get caught up in rules of a particular religious organization. And true to form, 3 years later, after his last sermon, he collapsed in the sanctuary. They took him to the hospital. He died, and he went back to heaven to be with his wife. So if it's that important for this pastor, this Baptist pastor, to spend 3 years separated from his wife who's enjoying the finer things in heaven, then it must be pretty important to God that you do not invest yourself in a religion. Okay? Okay? It's you and Jesus. You don't need anybody to tell you how to talk to Jesus. You can stop any time and just talk to Jesus. One of the things Dean said as he was going up to heaven, he said he was going up to heaven to be absent from the bodies, to be present with the Lord. So you're not going to feel a lot of pain when you die. It's just like he said there were like, you can't really explain it, but it was like the closest thing you'd say is like shooting stars were the prayers coming off this planet. And most of them were from people just saying, God, if you exist, help me with X, Y, Z, whatever it is. And he was aware of all the prayers for him. And I said to him, is it like a big download of information? And he said, no, it's kind of like a release of information. Like maybe we have it in our soul, all this knowledge, and that we'll all become aware of it. Kind of like when you wake up in the morning and you've had, your eyes are thick, and you've been back, and you've been dreaming, but you can't remember but if you don't stop and really focus on the dream you just had, it's gone. It's gone. Bye. Out of there. So it's real important that you remember it is a relationship. It is not a religion. And those of you that have been making snarky little comments, it's all they've got. All these people that have TDS, the only thing they have is that one little doctored tape recording of Donald Trump's bravado with that Bobby Bush thing. Really? Is that all you got? Is that all you got? Oh my gosh, the evil stuff that all those previous presidents is now coming out. Um, and that's all you got. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. Just free yourself from the hatred of Donald Trump. Free yourself. Treat yourself and watch just one of his he did a great one in Florida yesterday, I think it was. Just watch that one on YouTube. Free yourself. Try to have an open mind. Just free yourself. Yes, you too. Just be at peace and free yourself of the hatred. There is no upside for hatred. There's no upside for bad feelings. There's no upside for saying mean things. Nobody on this planet goes out and gets up in the morning and says, I'm going to make you feel like crap. The only reason anybody makes you feel bad is because of their own hurt, their own insecurities. Somebody's hurt them in the past, and so they're going to hurt back. It's like sugar. It's a temporary high, but then it goes away real quickly. It's better just to look at everybody who hurts your feelings as somebody who is spiritually handicapped. Pretend like you for some strange reason have an aversion to people that are on crutches. So if somebody comes in the room on crutches, you'd say, "Get out of here! I don't like people on crutches." I don't think you'd do that because you feel bad for them. They're on crutches. They don't want to be on crutches, but they're on crutches. Just like the person who's mean to you doesn't really necessarily, in his heart of hearts, want to be mean to you, but he's saying it or she's saying it out of their own injury, their own insecurity. Somebody has hurt them. Somebody has made them feel very badly about themselves, and for some strange reason, they think that they should do the same thing back to them. Where was harassed in Florida by Trump supporters. It was Jim Acosta was harassed. That was so funny. Jim Acosta up there standing, and all these Trump supporters are screaming, CNN sucks, CNN sucks. I mean, even if you don't like him, just force yourself to watch a Donald Trump rally. Even if you don't like him, they're the most entertaining rallies. I mean, he's the most entertaining president ever. He just says exactly what he thinks. And it's like he just got invited into Trump Tower for a business meeting, and he just or over for lunch, and he's just telling you what he thinks. It's brilliant. Oh, loved Roy Moore. Loved Roy Moore. Did a video that actually got a lot of views. For some reason, YouTube didn't censor me, but I did it live, so maybe they shut it down. Like if I get a lot of views now, they'll shut it down within 24 hours, so I only get like 10 or 12 views. That's why you'll go on I've had my channel since 2007, and yeah, I don't have enough subscribers. They took away my ability to monetize my station because they just take it away. So I could have millions of views, but they make it look like on this one I have 20, still says I have 20,000 views on the one that they started the censoring. Obama, just do a search on YouTube. Obama, not a natural born citizen. And you'll see Moi with dark hair and wearing a red sweater. And I go through chapter and verse why he is not a U.S. citizen. Not a U.S. citizen, but not I don't know if he's a U.S. citizen, but he's definitely not a natural born citizen, which is a higher bar to meet to be president. That is one thing I did want to cover. No, Speaker, right, college campus, you're right. Okay, thank you very much, Space Guy 1. And so anyway, what was I going to say? This was about, where was I on this whole thing? Come on, people, help me out. Do you remember, what was I about ready to talk about? The natural born citizen thing. I just want to quickly explain the natural born citizen thing. There was this guy named Vital. He is a French author back at the time, but he wrote this book called The Law of Nations. And our founding fathers were trying to put together the Constitution, and they wrote letters to him and said that they are using his Law of Nations very closely in order to write the Constitution. And John Jay, the first Supreme Court, the top Supreme Court justice, said to Washington and the people that were writing the other guys that were writing the Constitution, that wrote a letter to, I think it was Benjamin Franklin, saying that wouldn't it be important that we make sure that only a natural born citizen can achieve the office of the presidency of the United States, so they won't get a foreigner in there. And so they wrote the part in the Constitution about the natural born citizen requirement for the U.S. president, and they exempted themselves for all but those who are alive at the time of the writing of the Constitution. That way, all the people like Jefferson and Washington, who clearly were not born in the United States because it wasn't even a country at the time when they were born, they could still serve. But once it got so far past the writing of the Constitution that somebody wants to run that wasn't alive at the time of the writing of it, they have to be born in the United States. This is what Vattel said in the League of Nations. Born in the United States, and they have to be born to 2 U.S. citizen parents. Not 1, Ted Cruz, but 2. And they have to be U.S. citizens at the time of birth. Sorry, Marco Rubio. Parents were not U.S. citizens at the time of your birth. But his birth at least was in the United States. Ted Cruz's birth was in, and he's even shown his birth certificate, it was in Canada. So he wasn't born in the United States, and his mother cannot give him natural born status because he only has 1 parent. His dad was not a U.S. citizen at the time of his birth. And there's ample evidence to show, not ample, but there's certain evidence to show that his mother was registered to vote in Canada at the time of his birth. And so she probably gave up her U.S. citizenship, and you could not have dual citizenship in 1970 in Canada. So there's no chance that Ted Cruz should ever be nominated to run for the president of the United States. So if you've hooked your wagon to Ted Cruz will die. And there's a lot of anti-Trumpers still, I saw on Facebook that are backing Ted Cruz for 2020. Are they working for the Democrats or what? That was Hillary's plan. They threw everything but the kitchen sink at Donald Trump and Ben Carson. Whatever will stick, will stick. We'll give you a Christian with Ted Cruz. We'll give you Hispanic with Marco Rubio. We'll give you a Bush. We'll give you you saw all the people up there on the stage. But the one that came out was Donald Trump. And the one that's in his administration is Ben Carson. The 2 wealthiest people running in the last primary was Donald Trump and Ben Carson. So you really got to understand this. I studied this since 2008 because I got censored because I had no idea that this video that I made with a friend of mine, I said, you know what? There's this rumor going around that Obama's not a natural born citizen. Can you go find me some evidence and come and do the show with me tonight? And so he came, and it's kind of funny. I dressed up like Sarah Palin, wore little glasses, and he kind of looked a little bit like John McCain. Unfortunately, he passed away of rare cancer in 2011. I hope they can't give you cancer. I hope these evil people can't give people cancer that they don't like. Throw them out. They were trying to do it to Castro, I know. But anyway, so we did a 3-part thing. We went through all the reasons why Obama's not eligible to be president of the United States. This was before the Electoral College. I was hoping somebody at the Electoral College, hello, somebody. I even tried to email my friend Bob Woodruff, and he didn't even respond. I was appalled. I said, this is egregious. How has nobody checked this thing out before he was allowed to be the nominee for the Democrat Party? Well, it's because it was the plan. So Hillary Clinton, back to 2016, Hillary Clinton was hoping that we'd nominate either Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio as either vice president or president, because if either one of them had been on the ticket, she could have just said, you know what, guess what, not eligible under the Constitution. Guess your whole ticket isn't eligible. Guess I run as the only major party candidate for president, and just waltzes right into the White House. So that's why it's so wonderful. It's a God thing. And as far as Donald Trump, I do not believe was a Christian, but I think being asked to run by these military people that were onto the deep state shenanigans and corruption, he was witnessed to by a pastor, and he saw all these people just over and over again. People kept coming up to him saying, you're in our prayers, you're in our prayers, you're in our prayers. And so in my I worked for a Christian organization, and our owner was in the Trump Towers with other Christian leaders, and said that he's a baby Christian. So what better kind of Christian can we have as president than a new one? Because they're the most excited about Jesus of anybody. And all his money, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to go to heaven. Why? Because rich people think they've got everything going on and they don't think they need anything else. So they start a lot of times buying into evil stuff. And Satan can help them get wealthy. And so anyway, I know it might sound fairy tales, it might sound crazy. Don't watch my show then, okay? Because I'm a strong believer, and it's my objective in life to let as many people know about how much Jesus loves you as I possibly can, and to love and be kind to everyone I come into contact with, and to constantly ask for forgiveness for all the bad stuff that I've done and thought and everything else. Because this is basically uh, training camp for heaven. Okay, it's like a obstacle course. If you make it through and you recognize that Jesus is the Son of God and he sacrificed on the cross as the last sacrifice so that we could all go to heaven, then you're going to go to heaven too. And if you don't, I'm really sorry, and I don't want anybody to go to hell, and neither does Jesus. So even Hillary Clinton, Clinton, she could, this could be a good opportunity for her to recognize her wrongful ways, sinful ways, and ask for forgiveness. All right, this has gone on for far too long. You're repeating what I said. Am I repeating what you said, Space Guy? And other words. Well, good. I'm glad I was wanting to have a conversation with people on this Twitter thing, because normally I just read and don't really pay attention. I am dyslexic, so it takes me a little while to read it. But I really appreciate your comments, and I look forward to commenting on them again. And if you would, it'd be so nifty if you could follow me, Conservative Lisa, on Twitter. I am stifled at it, how many people I can follow, because Twitter's trying to ban us as well, and that is Lisa 4, the number 4, OR, because I ran in Oregon. I did this for my campaign, and then the number 1, and then ST. Yes, before Donald Trump put America first, Lisa put Lisa Michaels for Oregon first. But it's fine. It's fine. I claim no thing. It's a great concept, and I didn't even come up with it. A friend of mine did anyway. So Lisa for OR first. Please follow me on Twitter. I've got a blog, which is it's got, like, I don't know, 300, 400 little posts in there, and lots of unreported news on that thing. It's called conservativelisa.blogspot.com. That's conservativelisa.blogspot.com, or conservativecrew.blogspot.com. And that one I'm trying to, and I didn't do a very good job this primary season. I tried to promote conservative primary candidates. So remember, vote in your primary. Vote for a conservative, the most conservative. Don't vote for Mitch McConnell's pick. And be very careful, even though Donald Trump might have endorsed him like he did that Josh Hawley. He might be being told he has to endorse them in order for Mitch McConnell to put his appointees and his judges up for a vote in the Senate. So keep that in mind. And again, if you're a person with TDS, we are praying for you. And you can just, there's no need for you to go to the polls at all. You just stay home and enjoy yourself. I want to end with a quick prayer. Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask you to bless each and every person, each and every precious, wonderful, unique soul that is watching this video, and we ask you to give them discernment. We ask you to continue to bless them and give them direction in their lives. We ask you to forgive them for all the things